Welcome back, Canteeners, to Culper's Canteen Cup. It's the full C3 this week, man. We're really happy that Roger's back. Don't know what exactly he was doing, but he's back, and he's raring to go for episode 94. And I did zero show prep, and I have a feeling that Josh and Roger might have, maybe come up with something between the two of them, and maybe going to ambush me this episode. So Roger is already, I told you, he's rare to go. He's strong out the gate. He's raising his hand. So Roger, what do you got for us? Episode 94.
Well, it's good to be back, you guys. Kick-ass episode last time. Real quick shout out to one of my Xbox buddies, Spence. He's got some medical issues that he's going through. So he's laying up in a hospital bed here for about the next month or so, playing some Xbox and hopefully catching up on some Culper's Canteen Cup. So that I think we've got enough content out there now. It might actually make you suicidal, so maybe don't listen to a bunch of episodes back to back, but at least get you maybe halfway up to date. So all three of us, well, 2.5 were CI guys in the military for the majority of our careers, and Luke continues down that road doing some stuff on the wow, man. So I live in Arizona, and dude, it is nuts out here right now. It is like a tropical storm coming through Hawaii. Stuff's blowing sideways. But anyway, so we're CI guys, right? Dude, you have no idea how bad we are at our jobs. You have no clue how bad we are at our profession. None whatsoever. So I tell you, you're not going to believe this. It's breaking news. It's not really breaking news. It's breaking news to me, and you guys are going to flip out too. I know both of you are. And I just found this out like maybe 2 hours ago from my neighbor, Steve, which I think both of you have met. So one of the two of you, I don't care which one, give us a 30-second, history on Ray Epps. And this is kind of funny. This is kind of funny because of the picture, and we did the whole, thing with Luke. So this all ties in. Go ahead.
Clearly, this calls for a CI technician. So I'm gonna pass it to Josh. I relinquish.
Oh Lord! So Ray Epps was the guy on January 6th that was going around. He was dressed like when Luke goes to work every day. He's got some some 511s on, and this tactical polo, and this Make America Great Again hat, and he's walking around, and there's multiple videos of him, and he is just he's egging people to go to the Capitol. He's egging people to go to the Capitol, egging people to go to the Capitol. Well, it's crazy because he's a clear agitator. In the January 6th event, yet he has not been called to testify. No, and the mere mention of his name, it was like mentioning Eric Ciarmella, during the Vindman, Ukrainian phone call impeachment with Trump. Like every time you mention his name, you could just see buttholes, pucker, and Democrats just kind of tighten up a little bit.
So this is incredible. It's going to blow your minds. It blew my mind. I still can't believe this. Like we're the three biggest morons like on the face of the planet. So I don't think I took Josh out there, but Luke, you remember the farms like right next door to my house?
Yes.
Ray Epps lives back there.
Dude. No. Well, he was up in Colorado when New York Times did their little puff piece on him. So tell us, how'd you find that out?
So my buddy Steve, and in his family, and they're all very well connected around here. I've been here for, since the town didn't even have a stoplight. And he texted me out of the blue. He's like, Ray Epps. I said, what? I said, I don't know him, but yeah, Ray Epps. He goes, he lives in the mini farms. I'm like, get the fuck out of here, man. No way. Like that Ray Epps. And he goes, yeah, he was talking to, his significant other's mom and whatever. And I know the place because I run by it. Well, back when I used to run, okay, so I drive my golf cart by it, but he used to host weddings and stuff back there. But I was like, that's the place. He's like, yeah, man. He goes, he lived there. And when I Google him, it's like, yeah, he's a Queen Creek dude. And they're like, yeah, he went to, January 6th. And then he was a Boy Scout leader for my neighbors to the left of us, the Canadians. He was like their Boy Scout leader. I'm like, are you out of your mind? So apparently it got so bad around here, which I didn't notice because it's literally like a couple 100 yards away. But it got so bad for him that he ended up selling it for like some ridiculously low price, and then went up to like Colorado or whatever. And then is now once everything kind of dies down, he's looking at buying the land back and coming back. So I don't know if he like, hey, here, you hold this for me for a couple years and let me pop smoke and then come back. But dude, I was like, Seriously, like that dude lives right around the corner, and we missed it. We all missed it. Not even a clue. And of all the articles we read, because remember we did an episode on it, and we read, I was reading about Ray Epps and this and that, and it's at first we didn't go real in depth, but like none of that stuff comes up. And then when I Google him with his name, it's like, oh yeah, he's a Queen Creek dude, lives on Superstition Avenue. I'm like, yeah, that's like right there, dude. How bad is that?
Is that trained observer? So is that near where the lady who posts all the like anti-Semitic
stuff? He's actually a little bit closer than that. He is one street before. Yeah,
God.
Dude, it's literally right there.
Is that like by where all the llamas and stuff are? And
so before you get to that, if you that road before that, if you take a left, it's like 2 houses down on the right.
So, but he doesn't live there anymore.
No, but he's going to be coming back. Oh, see, look at that. Emergency alert. That's Ray Epps hitting me up.
And FBI is already on Roger's ass. Tell him where Ray Epps lives.
Yeah. No, they're like, hold on. Somebody said Ray Epps? Dude, they automatic. Dude, they done vectored in on you. Done.
Okay, so Josh, so what's in your mind? Put on your hat and your best guess hat, okay? And tell us, what do you think the deal with Ray Epps actually is? Or tell the audience, because I think we're on the same. I'll put on my Lucanon cap if you don't give me the proper answer to the audience.
I think Ray Epps is either a Fed or Ray Epps is, an asset for the Feds. And he was intentionally placed there in January 6th to agitate folks to the Capitol. He was intentionally, because he's even out there that he's even shown the night of January 5th out on the street talking about how they're going to, go to the Capitol and make their voice heard, the next day. That guy was intentionally placed there to get for what purpose? To do exactly what happened, to make happen exactly what happened, because that's what they wanted.
So you think the federal government, or at least elements within the federal government, wanted that to happen? I don't disagree with you. I'm just
100%.
Why? I'm asking you because I'm not picking your brain. It's just like,
well, for two reasons. One, to make Trump look bad. And then two, so they would have something that they could go off of to keep him from running again in a future election. That's it. That was up, because nothing else they did, nothing else they had, stuck. We all remember every 4 years, it was, first it was the Russia thing, and then the Ukraine call, and then everything. But it was always like, people are like, oh, the walls are closing in. The walls are closing in. We got them this time. And they couldn't do anything. And so they saw that, okay, there's going to be this big, thing on January the 6th on the mall. That's our opportunity. If we can instigate that crowd and agitate that crowd and place a number of individuals in that crowd, because Ray Epps hasn't been, he has not been positively identified as a federal agent. But even during some of the testimony, it's come out, there were federal agents in the crowd.
Yeah.
I mean, so I don't think he was a federal agent. I mean, now knowing like where the guy lives, I mean, he wasn't an agent. I guess my question would be, do you think because I think he was one of these two, and I'm not sure yet which is which. Do you think he was actually an asset, or do you think he was just a source? And I say that because there's a difference, right? Because if he's a source, then he's just somebody that you're looking at to provide some information, who's got some inside knowledge. And so he goes out there and he just does what he was going to do anyway, right? As opposed to the other way where, okay, well, kind of going along with the lines of what Josh is saying, hey, we want you to go do that. I mean, there's a big difference in my mind. And, there's a difference between having a source, whether it's a law enforcement source or whatever. It's like running a drug dealer, right? I mean, if you got a drug dealer who's providing information for you, well, he's going to continue to go out there and sling drugs and do what he does. However, if you've got somebody under so much control that you're having him sell drugs for you, there's a big difference. And that's kind of the Ray Epps. Do you think he was actually an asset, or do you think he was more of a source?
I think that, you say we're bad at our jobs, and I understand that, but you guys understand why you say that. I know, but
we're horrible.
what you just outlined is textbook, right? And that I think the three of us know the difference between a source of information and an asset that you are controlling, right? But I think that we have done it throughout our careers And I think definitely the American public does it by giving the federal government way too much credit, specifically the FBI, for being good at their jobs. I think that it's possible. Yes, by your definition, I believe, if that's the case, I think he's an asset, not necessarily a source. But that said, I could see somebody being so poor at handling sources of information, that they instructed him to be like, hey, I want you going out there calling for violence and see who comes up and talks to you and report back to us on that. I could see them being so, I can't see them. I know there's a lot of them are so poor at their jobs that they use tactics like that. So either way, I think he was instructed to do that. To what end? I mean, I lean toward Josh that somebody wanted something to happen. But again, never underestimate the incompetence of the federal government, man. I mean, what do you say, Roger? Never attribute to malice what could be explained by incompetence.
I think that was Josh, but yeah.
Well,
yeah, never attribute to malice what can be explained by stupidity.
I always wonder, the more that comes out about this January 6th stuff, it's just pathetic. To me, it's pathetic. Everyone's over it. There's so much more to talk about and to deal with right now, other than these sham hearings. And I think they're going to start them back up in September. They were supposed to be over, and
no, they have to start them back up in September because when they just got done with this Kabuki theater, this previous one, it didn't gain the traction that they thought it was going to gain, because people don't care that somebody threw their feet up on Nancy Pelosi's desk on January 6th. They cared that they just had to spend $110 to fill up their car. And so it didn't have the desired effect. You do it in September, right before the midterms, and try and ride that wave a little bit into the midterms. So yeah, it's Kabuki theater. That's all it is. That's the best way to put it.
I'm going to be really bad at the history on this because I just now heard of it this week. That back before World War II, and you guys might know more about this than I do. Back before World War II, is after World War I. There was a big protest on the mall in front of the Capitol, all the way to the White House. It was tens of thousands of people. And they camped out there, and all these people were veterans of the First World War who were protesting, we're not getting our veterans benefits. And it was bad, because veterans benefits were dog poopy back then. And they still have a little bit to make up for now, but back then they really had nothing. And turns out that FDR, I believe, FDR sent Eisenhower in there, and this is before World War II, and cleared that place out violently. Now they had come up to the Capitol a few times, and they had gotten in, and it was get chippy every day, but veterans were killed over that. Tens of thousands of people. They went in there and cleared them out, and I can't remember where I heard this, but I did read it. That's far closer to an actual insurrection than that nonsense on January 6th. And people laugh at Alex Jones. Once he was on the Michael Malice podcast, it was actually really good because it was Alex Jones, not all hyped up on 20 cups of coffee and probably a little snort of little nose candy there. He was actually very, very calm and collected. He made a few points. An insurrection, it cheapens the word. It truly, truly cheapens the word. And for an insurrection, I mean, Josh or Roger, y'all take whichever one. Why don't you tell the audience what an actual insurrection, like in 2 minutes or less, what an actual insurrection looks like. What do you have to seize? Do you just go seize the Capitol building and it's good?
No, I'll defer that one to Roger. But the protest you're talking about was a 1932 bonus army protest that they camped out on the National Mall because they had not received a bonus that was promised to them by the United States government after World War II, and so after World War I, and so it wasn't Eisenhower that went in there. After a couple months, it was MacArthur. Douglas MacArthur led the force that went in there. Two folks were killed. And I mean, they raised it like MacArthur rolled through the National Mall like Sherman through Georgia, and it was bad. It was very bad. So, but I'll leave the definition of
Thanks
insurrection
for
over
thanks
to
for the
Roger.
correction, Rod. That was good due diligence. Thanks for that.
You're welcome.
I won't get into the nuts and bolts so much. I mean, just simply put, generally speaking, if you don't have any weapons or guns, it's kind of hard to justify it as being an insurrection. If the side that you were uprising against is the only one who actually has guns, it's kind of hard to say that there was an insurrection. When the side that actually has somebody that gets killed, right, from the other side because they don't have any guns, it's kind of hard to say that there's an insurrection. And you're right, because it does cheapen the meaning of the word. And we've seen this playbook for several years now, right? It's the same thing with race and Nazis and Hitler, and you're as bad as Hitler and you're a Nazi. And it cheapens it when you use those words for those type of events that don't necessarily meet the criteria, right? Where it's not only just a violent uprising, but the end result is either some form of recognition or overthrow. Okay.
So, yeah.
Good.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, you did.
So,
Go ahead.
so Merriam-Webster defines insurrection as, quote, an act or instance of revolting against civil authority or an established government. Okay, so if that is the definition of insurrection that we're using, I'm not going to go dig into
Now do
US
recession.
code. Yeah,
Now do
Well,
recession.
exactly. That's what I was going to say. I was going to say, you know what? I don't give two shits what the dictionary says anymore.
No. Well, yeah, but so here's the thing: insurrection. The definition of insurrection has not been changed. You can go, listeners, you can go pull it out of U.S. code. But by this definition right here, weren't the hippies in the '60s, weren't they insurrectionists? Because, quote,
absolutely,
it was an instance of revolting against civil authority or an established government. So when you revolt against civil authority, okay, so when you're revolting, when these idiots, when these stupid, what do they call them? Like, what do they call them? Solemn citizens,
sovereign citizens.
Sovereign citizens. When you don't roll down your window because you're like, I don't recognize your authority, so I'm not doing it. Okay, well, by definition, now you're an insurrectionist. So I get to pull you out of your car and beat you, or in the case of January 6th, you're an unarmed woman, I can just shoot you in the face. So
Josh got that John Adams definition of insurrection.
Yeah, exactly. John Adams, whatever. That dude can go kick rocks.
You cut Roger off. Roger, where were you going with that?
I think and you've obviously got the definition of insurrection and but the meaning that the Democrats are using, because most people, again, we've talked about this ad nauseum on our episodes as far as, the wordsmithing and how they play with it. They're looking at an overthrow of the U.S. government. The Democrats want people to believe that those folks that went to the Capitol were going to overthrow the U.S. government. And I'll tell you this, 30,000 foot picture, an event like that is not going to happen. Not through that type, because one, we're so decentralized, right? We are so decentralized as a country. And I'm not saying that in a bad way. I say that in a good way. Dude, the reality is this, the White House could be overthrown. Congress could be overthrown. The Supreme Court could be overthrown tomorrow. States, cities, counties would continue to operate, right? Now, obviously, a lot of, I'm oversimplifying, there would be a lot of changes going on, right? Everybody freak out, wants to cause, are we fighting back, are we at war, yada, yada. I get all that. But I'm saying as far as functioning, we would continue to function and we would continue to exist as the United States of America. That's not a one-day thing, and I think that's one of the things that has always been to our advantage as a country, and not only just some of the isolationism and just our geographic, separation from, major threats, but part of it is we are so decentralized that, like, hey man, you're not overthrowing the U.S. I mean, it's just not going to happen. The only way the U.S. gets overthrown is when we overthrow ourselves, one way or another, and that's whether it be through, what's going on now, where it's really a fight between, conservatives, true conservatives. Which I won't even say like true conservatives, man. I think you're starting to see, and this goes back to what we talked about with libertarians. I think you're starting to really see a rise of libertarians out there. Like, people are like, hey, I'm not necessarily a conservative. I just effing want you to leave me alone, man. Just let me do my thing. The problem is all you've got is Gary Johnson out there. So, there is no champion for the cause. So the closest side that you have to pick or that you can pick is conservatives, right? Or the GOP or Republicans or whatever. But the battle is between progressives and, conservatives. Who wins, I guess we'll find out in the midterms and we'll find out in 2024 or whatever. But, for the whole, the definition that the Democrats want you to believe, and Josh hit it on the head, they want you to believe that those folks that went to the Capitol, and here's one thing, and this is kind of what pisses me off, because they conflate the two events, right? The original protest and then the riot at the Capitol building where they broke in. Those are two separate events. Okay, now some of the people crossed over because people, obviously came for the protest or whatever. Clearly, some folks, a smaller group of folks, had those intentions to begin with to go and raid the Capitol building. And then there were some folks that were just dumb and they got caught up in the mix and whatever. And, I have no issues with prosecuting those folks, arresting them, doing whatever, But don't sell me on that the QAnon shaman, with the goat, thing around his waist or whatever and wearing the horns was like going to take over the country. Okay. And that's what Democrats want you to believe. Luke, you look like you had something to say.
Oh, well, I do. Always got something to say. Y'all know that. And people who know me well know I got a lot to say. How much you care about is another matter entirely. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Y'all both are right. They want you to believe, they want the public who are, a lot of them are buying it hook, line, and sinker, that was a legitimate threat upon our democracy. I think that Chuck Schumer himself said that bigger than Pearl Harbor, bigger than 9/11, or as big, one or the other. But yeah, I mean, let's say let's just go down the road. They take over the Capitol, and let's say they had weapons, and let's say that they forced the Capitol Police out and they stopped the vote. Is that going to overthrow the United States? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. You know why? They had not seized any. This is just for starters. They had not seized any seats of power. The media, for instance. The first thing in an insurrection, take it from Fidel Castro, you got to get the media, man. And if you can't get them on your side, you shut them down. And then you got to shut down insurrection is actually like real insurrection, toppling an existing powerful government. There are books that are this thick, for those of you who can see on YouTube, talking about insurrection, what it is. But you have to deprive the citizens of certain means of production right away and seize those so you can start providing those instead of the government. See, the government's not giving you this. We are. None of that. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. There was no leadership. There's always leadership within an insurrection. I mean, gosh, we could go on and on and on.
What, you mean the QAnon shaman wasn't the leader?
No,
he
was. Jeez. Those videos are actually kind of funny. I mean, you go back, busting into the house floor. Hey, what's up? It's like, dude sitting on the floor on his cell phone telling his wife he's okay. It was sad. It's pathetic. It was pathetic. Truly was. They shouldn't have gone in there. And we've said that on the show multiple times. But you said that about centralized, right? What's funny to me is over the years, and we've talked about this on the show too, is I think the three of us agree that and Thomas Jefferson, by the way, he agrees too. A very powerful centralized federal government is not what you want. It's not what you want. But yet, both sides of the aisle in DC are pushing for that as hard as they can. Let's focus more power in the federal government to affect your day-to-day life. And you talk about, you're seeing this trend toward libertarianism, and I think it's from, people on Main Street. They may call themselves a Democrat, they may call themselves a Republican, kind of right there in the middle, are getting really tired of this. And of course, COVID brought this out. It was very, very poignant during COVID how much control the federal government has when, I don't know, I think that your local government should have the most control about how you live your day-to-day life, because they are the ones who are going to feel the pain when they try to impose something on you that the public does not want. What pain does the federal government feel when they impose something on the citizens of, Floydada, Texas, and they are absolutely not accountable for that? And I don't know, Josh, man, I feel like I'm kind of rambling, but maybe you can encapsulate my thoughts a little bit better about, insurrection, centralized government, how hard it would be to overthrow the United States government. Not that any of us would ever do that or advocate for it. Never, never.
No.
I'd get a security clearance if I did.
I mean, we can always just go ask John Bolton how he did it, and around the world when he worked for the State Department. He came out. It's like, oh, well, we overthrew governments. I was like, oh, that's what you were doing at the State Department. I didn't know the State Department was chartered with that. I thought it was another agency. So the when it comes to the strong, a powerful federal government, it just goes back, man. You had the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists, and the Anti-Federalists were right. They were right all along. The Federalists were pushing for a strong central government, in weaker states. The Anti-Federalists were, the exact opposite. And you're right, it shouldn't be, because people have the most influence at the, most people you have more influence at the local level than you do at the federal level, just for, the reasons that Luke kind of outlined. You may never, ever, ever get a chance to, correspond directly with your, the senator representing your state, or, your representative, that's in the U.S. House. You can absolutely have more opportunity to correspond directly, and actually, come face to face with your mayor, with your city council people, city councilman, your school board. That is where your power is.
To be
not
fair,
at the federal level.
To be fair, Josh, I hate that term, to be fair, but it's like all around, in the districts. In fact, I drove by them. I drove by actually 3 of them this past week. I drove right by the offices of the representative for that particular district within Texas. So, I mean, would you say that you have a better chance with your representative than I mean, obviously this is a dumb question. I mean, yeah, I'm with you on the senators. I'm never going to meet Cruz. It's not going to happen. But I mean, at least the representative is there. They should be in the office at least sometimes, right?
Yeah, your representative should, but I think that's gonna come down to who your representative is and how available they make themselves. Some representatives are absolutely not going to make themselves available to their constituents for a myriad of reasons. I'm going to go out on a limb and say Dan Crenshaw does not have have an open door policy. When he's in town.
I think you're right. AOC. Any member of the squad, I agree with you.
Yeah. I mean, they're going to have hours in there, like the old S1 used to have. Be like, we're open between 9:37 and 9:51. And then we're at Sergeant's time training the rest of the day, every day. So, yeah, I absolutely, would never advocate for the overthrow of the U.S. government. But I will say this. There is going to come a point in time where people are going to get tired and people are going to get fed up. Did you know did you guys see the price of stamps just went up again?
Really?
Yep.
Yeah. So the price of stamps went up again. I truly believe if it wasn't for junk mail, the U.S. Postal Service would be completely out of business. And I started thinking about it, and so I spent this past week in Georgia. Spending time with my mom, my sisters, and my dad and stuff. And my dad and I, we went and had breakfast one morning at a Waffle House, where we sat there. We solved the world's problems, and it's kind of laying out. It's like, think of how much tax you pay. Think of how many times you're taxed. Right? Just think about all the taxes that a U.S. citizen has. Right? You got, you run down the list, and we're talking federal taxes, state taxes, local taxes. You think of all the things you have to do to get a permit, right? You want to put a fence up in your yard? That's a permit, right? And which is basically, it's nothing more than a tax. You want to put a deck on your house? You got to get a permit. That's it's a tax. It's taxed, and, then we're taxing tax dollars, at points. We threw tea in a harbor and started a revolution over less than what is happening now, than what is being done to American citizens now.
Hey, talk about the coffee. Walk us through that. You two guys walk us through the coffee thing. And because I remember you saying that that very phrase you said, we start a revolution for less, because of all the stuff, all the hoops we'd have to jump through. So I think that would be interesting to talk about.
Yeah. So since Roger's the one that's actually kind of researched it, I'll let him, roll that out. But just think about it. And I have a solution for the tax problem, though. I have a solution that damn near the entirety of America would stop this, this continuous money grab via taxes by the federal government. When you get paid every month, you get your entire paycheck. You get your entire paycheck. And every month, once a month, you have to write a check to not only the IRS for your federal taxes, but you have to write a check to your state and to your county for whatever local taxes you have. You have to do that once a month. If that happened, there would be people in the streets in the next 5 minutes.
It'd be pitchforks and torches time. Pitchforks and torches, bro.
100%. 100%. It would do just people don't realize how much that Uncle Sam is, putting his hand in their pockets. It is absolutely crazy. And, like you said, both sides of the aisle at the federal level are trying to continue to, centralize more and more power at the federal government, because I don't care how good a person you are, total power corrupts. And the more power that they can get up there, the more money they can get. And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. So, yeah, I think that's a good idea on the coffee thing, though. Roger, you want to run that down?
Yeah, but real quick on the tax thing and following along that line. So just rough numbers here. Understand that for every dollar that you earn, right? And you're spot on. Ted brought that up before. He wasn't saying monthly. He was saying do it annually. But, of course, the federal government will never do that because we'll spend that crap, right? It'll be like Dumb and Dumber. You'll just get like the yellow sticky. Hey, man, I was a little short this month. I owe you $650. I'm good for it, right? But for every dollar that you get, that you earn, you might as well just cut it in half automatically, right? Because by the time you get done with your 25% federal income tax, you're, depending on what state you live in, 5, 6, 7% state income tax. Some folks have a city tax or a county tax. Then you throw on your 8%, or so sales tax. We haven't even talked about like property tax and all the other, numerous taxes out there that you're going to pay just going through life. You're getting less than 50 cents on the dollar, right? I mean, it's criminal. And it's, and I get angry. I mean, the tax thing it pisses me off. I get angry because I don't think people care enough, and they don't care enough because part of, obviously technology and those advances makes life a lot easier in some aspects. But, there's also another purpose for that stuff, because people just don't see their money. Like we will never see our entire paycheck, because the government is going to go ahead and grab their piece first. And it's not like the old days, right, where you went up to the cash cage and you went up there and they counted out your money for you, and you're like, okay, here's $550. You're like, yeah, but I'm supposed to get paid like $720, like what happened with the rest of this thing, right? You're not there. It's not even that way anymore. Now you just get this number that's in your bank account on the 1st and the 15th, and that's just kind of what you live off of. What's up, Luke?
Would you say it's a little bit like the lottery, like that ass wagon up in Illinois who's got my money right now? Would you say it's a little bit like the lottery, where it's like, well, the prize is $1.34 billion in fine print. Yeah, but you're actually only going to win about 700 million. Like, it's like that, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's exactly what it is. I mean, it's so bad that even like a lot of game shows, and this has been known for years, but a lot of game shows, the contestants end up giving their prizes back because they can't even pay the tax on it. If there's a big one, like, they talk about all the time, like, especially in California, because a lot of these are filmed out in California, like, yeah, I actually can't afford the tax on this new car. So just, you can keep it. I don't need it. I don't want it. I'm just here for whatever, right? I mean, you can do it with the cash or the money because they just take the money out of it, but you never do see 100% of it. And it pisses me off that people don't care enough, because you don't see pay stubs anymore. It's just, again, you just get a number that's in your account on the 1st and the 15th. And as long as it's somewhere close to kind of what you think you're supposed to be getting, then you're just kind of like, okay, this is what we have. We all have wives and this and that and kids. And Your spouse and others, as they pay the bills, they're just like, hey, this is the money that just hits, and this is what we pay our bills with. But going off to the federal government piece, like Luke and Josh were talking about, because we were talking about coffee. So those folks that listen to us for a while, so I roast my own coffee, and I know Luke and Josh think it's this snobby thing, and what they fail to realize is that I can get like fantastic gourmet roasted coffee for pennies what they pay at Starbucks, right? So it's actually a lot cheaper because I can buy it bulk, 10 pounds, 20 pounds, 100 pounds, whatever. And, for like an Ethiopian yogurt chef, dude, I pay like less than $5 a pound for that stuff. A pound, right? That barely covers a grande at, Starbucks or whatever. And that's for my whole family and all that stuff. But anyway, he was talking about the idea came up, hey, maybe we should roast some C3 coffee because I like roasting coffee. I actually have I have a Baymore roaster, so I can do over a pound at a time. I was like, that'd be kind of cool for both the listeners out there to send them some coffee every month or whatever. They could order it or whatever. And I'd been drinking a little bit. So, at first I was like, yeah, man, let's do it. Right. Yeah. No surprise there. I was like, yeah, man, let's do it. But then as Luke and I, and I think it was like 7:30 at night. So Josh had already been asleep for about 2.5 hours. So as Luke and I go back and forth and we're talking about this thing, trying to work it out, I'm just like, man, you can't do it, because there's cottage laws that I got to follow within Arizona. And so I can sell within Arizona. Once I go to the food handlers course, and then they authorized me to cook out of my own kitchen for coffee beans, right? For coffee beans. But I wouldn't be able to sell, and I can sell it online within the state of Arizona. And I've got some labeling requirements that I got to meet and this and that. But we can't sell it online outside the state of Arizona because it's now considered interstate commerce. And oh, by the way, interstate commerce, you can't cook anything out of your home kitchen, food wise, or anything that's edible and sell it over state lines. And then you have the FDA, now I got to go pay to get a specific, get my stuff analyzed and get a specific label. And this. So long story short, it's like, they just make it impossible. They stifle small businesses so much to the extent that's like, hey, here was an idea that we were kicking around that, we'd do this. And then as we started working out numbers, now mind you, I just said I can get a pound of Ethiopian yogurt for under $5 a pound. And correct me if I'm wrong here, Luke. I think we came out to like, I would literally have to sell it for $20 to like break even.
Yep. Yeah.
Right. And we're not even talking about time now. We're not even talking about my time and then filing fees for all the permits that come out the file. Like we were just looking at straight raw materials, straight shipping, boxing, packaging, this and that. Like you have to sell it for $20 a pound just to break even. And that's not the purpose of the federal government, man. It's just not. They stifle everything you do, and it goes down to where you've seen this poll, between the left and the right, where, and actually, I don't even know if it's a poll between the left and the right. I think now they may just both be on the same side of the tug of war rope, right? Maybe that rope is just wrapped around a tree. So they're both pulling in the same direction, but they just act like, hey, we're on opposite ends of the rope, but you're both pulling the same way because they just want bigger federal government. And that's not, I don't think that's what the founding fathers wanted. And this is a little bit of a tangent, and I'll kick it over to Josh. So another night I was drinking, right? And I think I texted this. I might have been drunk when I was, actually it's pretty funny. So I was drunk and I think I was pretty, I think I was pretty hammered. Right. And, it's gotta be like, I don't know, midnight, 1 a.m. or whatever. And I grabbed my phone and I just boom, 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 boom. And, my wife thought I was texting Scam Likely. She's like, who are you texting at 1 o'clock in the morning? Right. So I'm like, no, I've got this idea, and so we were getting ready to go to bed. I put Superman on TV, one of my favorites. I love Superman. Of all the superheroes, he's the man. And so I came up with this, like, you know what? And I need to Google this because surely I'm not the only one to ever think of this. The whole Jor-El, Superman, General Zod, and the crystals, dude, that is symbolic of the United States and our history. So like Jor-El and the crystals, those are our founding fathers, right? And General Zod, he's your progressive. Superman is your conservative. He's the conservative base of the country. And it's funny because there's a quote in there, the crystals are like the founding fathers, where they're telling you that the history and this is what we're meant to do. And they're obviously trying to, what was Krypton? They're trying to rebuild Krypton and this and that. And they get to a point where it's just not going to happen. And there's actually a statement where Jor-El, Superman's father, says, "Silencing me won't change anything." But anyway, in this drunken stupor, I sat there and I'm just like, man, that's exactly like the shape of our country right now. It's like you've got these crystals out there, and you've got Jor-El that are our founding fathers. Like, this is why we're created. This is what you're here to do. This is where you're now. They were obviously able to continue to give more guidance, which I think is our Constitution, right? Our Constitution, the Bill of Rights. That's the continuing guidance that the founding fathers left for us, knowing that they're not going to be around forever. But you've got General Zod that's like, nope, man, we're rebuilding Krypton. This is going to happen. And then you got Superman that's like, no, man, this is, we're supposed to adhere to these laws or whatever. But I know it was a drunken stupor. I thought it was pretty brilliant, genius. Now that I regurgitate that story, it doesn't sound as genius as maybe it did at 1 o'clock in the morning. But I'll throw it over to Josh for some of his thoughts.
Yeah, no, I remember you breaking that down for us. Yeah, I think it sounded better in the text than it did with you laying it out right there. So, but
whatever, dude. And your bands suck too, so whatever.
Dude, so real quick on the Superman thing is, and I said this in the text is, dude, Christopher Reeve was the best Superman, right? I mean, those were the best Supermans. I think Luke wasn't a fan of Superman 3, from his account, but just think about all that time that Lex Luthor wasted, trying to kill Superman with kryptonite. And I mean, all he had to do was invite him to go horseback riding with him, and
we're giving the people what they want. Oh, humor, dark humor.
I mean, humor, man. Hey, man, somebody came for the laughs and got the politics. Well, there's some laughs for you, right?
But they did a good job with all the Superman, like the George Reeves, the very first one. I remember watching the black and white one. I mean, that dude was like 6'4", big, stout, dude. And, you had Christopher Reeve and then the new guy. I mean, so they've done a pretty good job with all the Superman characters.
Yeah.
Was it? Go ahead, Josh. Sorry.
No. Go ahead. You're going to say something about Superman. Go ahead.
So the Joss Whedon or whatever his name is, did he do the Superman movie, the first one? Roger, do you know that he directed it or something? Yeah, I think it was Joss Whedon. Whatever, it doesn't matter. The Superman mythology, and now I'm getting into the weeds, and I'll kick it right back to you, Josh. But the Superman mythology is great, right? It goes all the way back to the beginning of myth, period. There's always got to be a weakness, right? His weakness is kryptonite, and as the story progressed over the years, the comic books, there were other weaknesses he had. And one of the weaknesses he had was his own conscience, his own morals and ethics and things like that. And sometimes these directors and sometimes Hollywood accidentally gets it right. They have a message that they want to send everybody, but they're like, it'd be cool if we had these crystals and they laid down the law, and we have a guy who's like, no, these are exigent circumstances, so I'm going to do. They didn't understand what I understand now. But then you got Superman, the ultimate hero, the ultimate protagonist, who's like, no, we have the rules. We're going to follow the rules, and that's what we're going to do. And that's why I think that, as I thought about that, through the week, because I drive a lot and I have a lot of time to think about the drunk text that Roger sends us. And I was like, it really is something that they kind of stumbled onto that. They stumbled onto like a deeper meaning, a deeper truth, which I also think was stumbled onto, whether on purpose or not, in the Dark Knight, the second Batman movie by Christopher Nolan. I think they stumbled onto some truth there that, some of the more perceptive audience members can kind of pick up on. I don't even know if he meant to do it that way, but that's what you took out of it. And I think it's great. I think it's a good point. But back to you, Josh. Sorry.
Yeah. No. So my bands suck, Roger. And a couple of our listeners weighed in and let me know that my music, my taste in music was terrible. One person even weighed in and was, said that Johnny Cash was meh, which I took as an affront, to everything I hold dearly when you disparage the man in black like that. But so I made the comment in that episode that the only white person that should be rapping was Eminem, right? So I said that. So have you guys heard of a dude named Jelly Roll?
What? No.
Yes.
Dude.
Yes.
So
he's a country singer though.
No.
No, I thought originally he was, and then he went to rap.
No. So check that. So, well,
dude, I'm telling you.
I don't know. So I drove back from Georgia today, so I had like 5.5 hours in the car. All right, so I got introduced to Jelly Roll. One of our listeners hit us up and was like, "Hey, man, you have to check this guy out. Just check him out."
I love how the listeners like to hit us up individually. When I
It
say I
drives me
love
nuts.
it means I hate it. So, hey, listen, everybody. You're going to hit Josh up. You're going to hit me up. You're going to hit Roger up. Hit the three of us up, man. It would be great so that I
Yeah.
can. I had a lot of driving.
country. He did country as well, and then I think he went to rap, and now he
So-
does both or whatever.
So he was on. So this guy hit him. Buddy hit me out. He was like, "Hey, man, you have to listen to Jelly Roll." He was like, "That dude's gonna blow you away," and he was absolutely correct. So I listened to an interview that he did with Bobby Bones, and Bobby Bones is he's kind of like the Joe Rogan of Nashville, kind of like the Joe Rogan of country music. So Jelly Roll went to prison. He started in and out of the juvenile and prison system when he was like 14 or 15. And from what he says, he started rapping in prison. He watched rap battles, and so that's really what got him into music. And then Bobby Bones asked, he was like, "Well, you've got country songs, like you have legitimate country songs, but the dude also has rock songs." And Jelly Roll's like, "Hey, man," he's like, I'm not a country artist, I'm not a hip hop artist." He's like, "I'm a songwriter and an artist." He's like, "That's what I do." He's like, "Whatever bin people want to put it in," he's like, "Put it in that bin. I don't care." But this guy, when Luke and I were talking about the music piece, right? We talked about there's music to be that is put out to be heard, right? And then there is music that is put out to be felt. The songs I listen to from this dude today, dude, he is only putting out music that is to be felt. If you get a chance, go listen to two songs, "Son of a Sinner" and "Save Me." Those two songs right there, dude, blew me away when I was driving today. They were absolutely phenomenal. Then I heard one of his rock songs. That dude was straight killing it.
He's an artist. It's interesting. You said his name. I looked him up on Wikipedia. It's my old standby. And we covered last week, or last time we recorded anyway, that Tom McDonald. And I had a few people hit me up, and to Ryan's credit, it was in the group chat and whatever. And he said, "I listened to a few of those. It's interesting, whatever." But my point is, Jelly Roll, right? He's collaborated with, there's a number of names. And I saw one name, this guy's name is Jennings, right? And he's out of Nashville and all that stuff. And I'm like, holy cow, Tom McDonald collaborated with that guy as well. So it's like, and I think it was Ryan. I think Ryan kind of called us out. He's like, "You got to search for this. You guys, you forgot about the Black Keys." And I'm like, "Yeah, we didn't mention the Black Keys. They're pretty good." But it's like, yeah, there is good stuff out there. That feel music, man, that's what I'm looking for. I just thought that was interesting that they all kind of run the same circles. And I bet you, is he independent or is he signed to a label?
I think he's independent. The interview that I watched him in, he didn't mention any of it. He just really talked about his background and how he came up, and kind of just more life on his background. But this guy, man, when this guy's singing about addiction, when this guy's singing about prison, when this guy, like, he's been there. He's got face tats. He looks like a fat Tom McDonald. Is what he looks like with the face tats and everything. He doesn't have the braids, but it's always good. And then I'll throw it over to Luke. He can jump all over to do whatever. But it's always good when you have somebody who is authentic. They are authentic and they are honest. I forget who it was. They were interviewing BB King. And they asked him, how did you and guys like Pine Top Perkins and others who were, the blues, like, how are you guys so successful, singing the blues? And BB King was like, "Because that's how I grew up." BB King was like, "Hey, man, it's hard to sound genuine singing the blues when you're riding in the back of a limousine." And I was like, "Damn, there it is. Right there." It's just, but this dude is authentic, man. He's a real deal. Everybody check out Jelly Roll. Man, dude was awesome.
So that's a pretty good transition. Sorry, I'm gonna cut you off real quick. I won't be like Josh and say I didn't mean to cut you off. I actually meant to cut you off, but I just wanted to note that that's a pretty good transition because Josh kicked old Carlton Zeus to the curb on the last episode there, and now he's bringing up Jelly Roll. So I guess we'll have some new intro music. I don't know for this one or next one, or whatever, but that was pretty smooth there, Josh.
There's always an angle. There's always an angle with Josh. You thought he just forgot about Carlton Zeus, man. Carlton Jelly Roll's coming.
Oh, that was well played, man. That was 2.5 weeks. Well played. He's like, oh yeah, just didn't kind of make it on there. Hey man, there's this guy Jelly Roll, and yeah. Sorry, Carlton Zeus.
So Jelly Roll in 2013 put out a album called Whiskey, Weed, and Waffle House. I know for sure two of those three things Josh really likes. Weed, we don't know for sure on that one. But anyway, Waffle House actually sent him a cease and desist on that, so he changed it to whiskey. They did. They changed it to he changed it to Whiskey, Weed, and Women. I can't wait to check him out. Thanks for that, Josh.
I love it.
Good. That was good. So yeah, we got a lot of feedback on last week's episode. I'm sure some people really didn't like it, but we did get feedback, and even negative feedback's good. And we do read y'all's comments, and it's like, hey man, F you, but it's like it's all in fun, So yeah, keep listening. We appreciate it. So Roger, I'm gonna change tack on you a little bit here.
We do that though. We're just sitting there, hey man, did you see this guy's comment? Man, F that dude.
F that dude. But it's like, dude, we love him. We love all y'all that listen to us.
Y'all can fight it out on who we're saying F you to, but yeah.
So, okay, Roger, I'm going to change tack on you a little bit. Yeah, I didn't mention Carlton Zeus in the last episode either. Maybe it's because we couldn't hook up in San Antonio. I don't know how that happened. Okay, so Roger, Nancy Pelosi is going to go to Taiwan. Apparently, she's doing her Southeast Asian tour, and China, at least the state media, is saying, no, that's a bad idea. So I've got a lot of questions on this. And my main question when I saw this is the Speaker of the House. My first question is always, as the audience knows, my first question is always why? Why is the Speaker of the House going to Taiwan? Exactly why is this happening? I'm not saying they shouldn't. I just like to know why. And the audience also knows we really don't like Nancy Pelosi at all. But for me, at least, politics stops at the water's edge. And if somebody's threatened to shoot down my Speaker of the House, brother, I'm ready to launch nukes at you. And that's just all there is to it. So, Roger, I don't know if you feel the same way I do, but, maybe if you want to give some background on that or just your thoughts on Pelosi going to Taiwan and China being all having their panties in the water about that.
Well, it's funny because there are multiple angles in this thing. So on the surface, you'd like to say that she's going to improve, relations between the U.S. and Taiwan and kind of show China that, we recognize, Taiwan's sovereignty. The problem is that's on the surface because as we talked about several episodes, we don't recognize, as a country, we don't recognize Taiwan's sovereignty. Okay, we recognize them as part of mainland China. And then she's probably got some stock tips or something like that she's going to pick up. But I am with you. But there's a couple different angles with this, and it's one. It's one of the, like you mentioned, dude. I can't even think of anything that I actually agree with Nancy Pelosi on about anything. With her going or saying that she's going to go over there and China may shoot the plane down or whatever. The GOP is behind her 100% going, right? I mean, everything I've heard, folks are like, hey, you need to go. You do not back down from this. Now, that being said, I don't know if they're like, well, hey, maybe they'll shoot her down. And so, what's the worst that could happen? I mean, there's got to be part of that in there. But I think the thing that pisses me off about this is that the administration, KJP is the worst. Like, I thought Jen Psaki was bad. She was just snarky and a little narcissist, right? And that's what pissed me off. Jen Psaki was the type, like, you just wanted to punch her in the face, right? That's where, that's where you just like shake the shit out of somebody because they just frustrate you so much. KJP is, man, she's just not very smart. She's not very smart. And I'm not even talking about gaffes and this and that. She's just not aware of the situation. and she's not very quick on her feet. And I tell you, for the administration, and this is the difference, okay? And I don't care, Democrat, Republican, whatever. This is the difference between Donald Trump, with what we've seen him do for 4 years, and Joe Biden. Is Donald Trump would have come out the next day and been like, "You shoot that plane down, we will turn China into a parking lot." Period. And almost every meeting that you hear, whether you like him or not, where he's dealt with Russia, China, Iran. I mean, we all know what happened to Soleimani. That's kind of, his words, like, "Hey, man, we can sit here and we can deal back and forth and be respectful, and we can have business dealings and this and that. But the minute the threat comes up, hey, man, we're going to town." And that's what we miss from Biden. And I tell you, when you go back to the whole Ukraine thing, because guess what? That war's still going on, right? When you go back to Russia and the Ukraine, that's why that happened. I mean, there's obviously other reasons behind that, but there's no deterrence there, because everybody knows that Joe's not going to do anything. So when you look at whether Nancy Pelosi actually goes or not, I mean, there's part of me that says, yeah, she needs to go, and I hope she does go, because you are giving some pushback, on China, but it's you don't have the administration.
Don't you think it's the optics too, though? I mean, because this is kind of a no-lose situation when she goes. Look how brave Nancy Pelosi is, right? The optics are it's like it's made for TV, literally optics, because she's going to go, and it's like, how brave, right?
And the White House is not even smart enough to take advantage of it. I mean, they came out and were like, well, the DOD advises, like, when was the last time the DOD advised the Speaker on the House on foreign travel, on foreign visits? Like, right? I mean, I get it if you're going to a war zone, if you're going to, Afghanistan in 2002 or something like that. Okay, I get it, or Iraq or whatever. I mean, when was the last time, the DOD came in? It's like, yeah, I really don't think you should go to Taiwan, or I really don't think you should go to France, or, or whatever. I mean, it just, you never hear of that happening. But the White House is so dumb that they're not even taking advantage of it, because now the GOP backing Pelosi, the White House is going to have to come out and support it. I mean, there's no way that that he can be so passive and remain passive about this thing. And it's not even like with KJP. What kills me is this: like, I think we're average folks. We are average folks that, we probably pay a little bit more attention to the news than most folks. And a lot of it's because we work from home, and like you said, you're on the road, so we have the opportunity to listen, to a lot more. But it's amazing to me that the White House hasn't figured out that they have to come on board and support her going, or you're going to look like complete pushovers, right? I mean, because that's what the GOP is doing. They are backing Pelosi and backing her going over there, and they're going to make the White House look like complete pushovers. And KJP, and this is going back to what my thought process with her is, she doesn't even exude the confidence that, like, there's one thing to say, hey, look, the Speaker of the House, for obvious security reasons, has a lot of trips planned, and we're not going to get into those details because of national security issues or whatever. Okay, and there's a way to confidently say that, and people will be like, all right, her flipping through her book. So Nancy Pelosi going to, because the DOD doesn't recommend it, but yeah, so we're not going to really talk about that right now. Okay, that's not a whole lot of confidence, right? I mean, there's ways to do it. She's done a poor job at it. I think she still goes to Taiwan. I think she has to. I think you're right, where it's a no lose for her. And I think for the GOP, it's really a no lose for them either. Continue backing it. It shows there's some sort of bipartisan support. Not that you're going to sway voters one way or another, but it shows that there is some kind of bipartisan support. And then it forces the White House, Josh, right? It forces the White House that they have to come on board.
Wait, let me ask one question real quick before Josh answers. Roger, to you, and then over to Josh. So, God forbid the plane shot down. God forbid that. I do not want that. I think I made that very clear. But if it was, how much, like if some Chinese trawler, or hopefully Taiwanese, maybe Japanese, gets those breast implants out of the water, how much do you think those will go for on eBay?
Man, your mind's in the gutter, dude. Your mind's in the gutter.
You saw the picture of her on the beach, man. Come on, man. Those things ain't real. There's no way. She's 80-something years old. You saw the picture on the beach? Unbelievable. If you haven't seen that picture on the beach of her walking, or type in Italy Pelosi beach, and the first thing that comes up, and then you tell me 80-year-old woman ain't no.
Luke's going to throw that out there after, scoffing at my my Christopher Reeve, horseback riding joke and be like, "Oh man, that's terrible." And you're gonna throw that out there.
Always got to push the envelope, man. We push the envelope here, man. Whatever it takes. These C3.
No, to answer Roger's question, yeah, I mean, I think at this point you have to support it because, especially now that China's come out and threatened that, you have to. If you don't, it's just another nail in the coffin. I mean, I think they maybe the White House is hesitant to do that, and because Hunter not going to get his next installment, into his bank account, then the big guy doesn't get his 10%. You know how it goes. So, as far as the rest of it goes, whatever. I'm with Luke. If China is that stupid, and I hope they're not, then the only logical recourse is to crank up the Enola Gay. Like, that's it. But guess what? Hey, boys and girls, and that goes for any dude,
100%.
An elected official, done. Especially, the third in line to the Oval Office, done.
100%.
I am turning China into glass. And they should understand that. And, past U.S. presidents, not Trump, not only Trump, who turned Soleimani into a bowl of salsa, but you go back and you look at Reagan,
Such a
with
racist.
Gaddafi, not only did we go in and, and bomb sites within limit, like we bombed Gaddafi's house in the middle of the night. And it was like, okay, you want to shoot down our planes? You want to bomb, civilian airliners over Scotland? Not a problem. We got something for you, guy. You want to kill them? And that was just, dude. And no elected American officials died in that. That was just American citizens. It was just us peons. And Reagan had no hesitation, with doing that. Bush invaded sovereign countries just because he got bullied into it by his daddy's former staff and coworkers, and then as with Trump. But yeah, man, that's the only recourse that you can do if something like that were to happen. So I don't know. So Roger, you said it was. I'm gonna shift gears on you a little bit here. You said it's raining out in Arizona. Is this like the 2 times a year that it rains?
Well, we're having an overly active monsoon season, which is great because we actually need it. But Luke's favorite place, Apache Junction. You guys got to Google the videos of Apache Junction from yesterday. I mean, the streets are literally like rivers flowing, taking mailboxes and cars and all that stuff down. So it's much needed, but it's a double-edged sword. I mean, you need the rain and this and that. The problem though, man, is like the humidity just goes nuts. I mean, which, where you're at out there, you complain about all the time. And the fortunate thing for us is like, it is true. People joke about it, but the dry heat does make a huge difference. We're good to 105, 106, 107 out here. Once you get beyond that, then it's just hot, and you stay indoors or whatever. But dude, when you're like 101 with like 50 or 60% humidity, I mean, it is unbearable. Like you just can't do it. And so it's, I haven't stepped outside. We got dumped on. I think we got just from the intro until we got to our first segment, it was like a quarter inch of rain. So, it stopped now. I don't know if we're going to pick up any more later today, but we definitely need it. I did find, speaking of rain, and because California is screwing this up to everybody, said, did you hear that Mexico is pissed that Californians are taking over Mexican cities and they're not assimilating?
Sounds kind of racist to me.
Shocker.
Dude, I sat there. They were talking about like with Mexico City, and then they had a couple guys that were like talking about cafe shop owners and this and that, and they're like, yeah, and they said obviously it's other places other than from California, but it's become so expensive to live in the States, and with people being able to work remote, that they're going to Mexico, and they're like, some of these small Mexican towns now, you go into a cafe, like you won't see one Mexican person. Or maybe the one person who works there is Mexican. Everybody else, they're white folks from California. And now they've got these posters and things up on telephone poles about, oh, are you from the United States? Do you work from remote? Go F yourself. That type of thing. I mean, they are pissed off, which brings me to inflation and GDP and all that other good stuff. So, we had talked about a recession, right? Which I think Luke and Josh at the very beginning kind of threw out, some jabs out there on the, as far as the dictionary definition, and it's, oh, sorry. Yeah, we do have some Kentucky floods. Yeah, you know what? I missed your transition. I was out for a week. Go ahead, Josh. Talk about the Kentucky floods.
Yeah. So remember earlier when Luke said that Roger was really bad at his job? That's a perfect example right there. So yeah, so like I said, man, I've been down in Georgia, this past week, and seeing my family. I actually, and the other thing, I got to catch up with a buddy of mine from high school that I haven't seen since high school, and it was good catching up with him. And then one of our listeners down in Tampa hit me up. He's from Eastern Kentucky. He's from a little town in Kentucky called Hazard, and it's in Appalachia. And he was like, "Hey man, you guys heard about the floods up there?" And I was like, "Dude, I haven't heard. Like, I haven't paid attention to the news at all. I haven't even been on social media. Luke and Roger always give me a hard time about being a terrible social media czar for C3. Like, I've actually been worse.
The worst.
I've been worse than worse this week, man. I've been completely absent on our social media accounts, except when Ryan disparaged Johnny Cash. I did jump in on that one. But anyway, so apparently, I looked it up. Like, Eastern Kentucky is getting hammered right now. Like, it's bad. It is really bad. So there's 25, but right now that they know of, confirmed 25 deaths. They've called in the National Guard from Kentucky, Tennessee, and West Virginia to go in and help with these floods. And in the last couple of days, they've rescued about 600 people. They're in and around Appalachia and Eastern Kentucky, and the governor, Andy Beshear, came out today and said that they're anticipating a lot more deaths, as search and rescue operations continue, and they continue to find folks. Out of those 25, four were kids. They were all four siblings that got washed. Apparently, they got washed away from their parents, who were trying to hold on to them. It's really bad, man. I was looking at some of the pictures coming out of Eastern Kentucky. They've lost power, obviously, in a lot of these places, and you're talking about those temperatures, that are soaring, and the humidity. And there's more rain coming this week for Eastern Kentucky, and so it's really, really bad there right now. We'll reach out to one of our other listeners and one of our podcast guys. Everybody remembers Ryan and Kristen, from episode "Fit for a King" to check in and see how they're doing. And what you got, Luke? You about to say something?
And they're doing okay. They're doing okay.
Okay.
Yeah, they got some rain, but no serious flooding, and they're kind of in Western Kentucky a little bit, so it's away from them. But
okay.
Yeah, at any time, but he said, he said Eastern Kentucky's just, it's brutalized.
So, if you can, I'm gonna do. So what I'll do is I'll get back on the social media czar horse tomorrow, and do a better job at fulfilling my responsibilities. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw up a blog, and I'm going to lay out some organizations, some charitable organizations right now that are actively helping the folks in Kentucky. And so these will be organizations that have been vetted, through the governor's office of Kentucky. So, the Kentucky American Red Cross, the Appalachia Regional Healthcare Foundation, Flood Relief Fund, and others. Again, these folks have been vetted. So when I throw them up there, don't hesitate to reach out if you can help folks. Definitely do what you can, because there's some people right now in Eastern Kentucky that are falling on hard times, and it's not looking good for the next foreseeable future with the additional inclement weather coming in. So with that, I'll throw it back to Roger, and then he can go on about inflation in the economy and stuff, and we'll change some more definitions while we're at it.
That was a real pick me up.
No, I think Luke said throw it back to him. So go ahead, Luke.
No. I said throw it back to Roger. Kick it back to him, not me.
Again, really bad at your job, Roger.
No, man, we're just not that good at communication. We need to go to therapy, man. Some C3 therapy. So, yeah, real quick, the floods, and I hope you do that, Josh, with the charitable organizations. 'Cause it's hard to find the good ones sometimes, and as try as it sounds, thoughts and prayers to those folks, because that's no joke, man. 25 people, I think total. I think that's a lot, man. That's a lot for the United States. We're not used to those kind of numbers. So, but anyway, so yeah, Roger, you had a thought there. It sounded pretty interesting. So, go ahead, man.
Well, we were talking about changing definitions and this and that, and it's we've gone kind of back and forth here, and it's funny because they changed the definition of recession, because that's the big thing on the news right now is recession. Are we in a recession? And if you listen to Joe, it's like, well, you can't really look at those numbers right now, or not pay any attention to those numbers because those numbers are historical and don't reflect today. And it's like, well, duh, all data is historical, right? I mean, unless you're getting it like real time right this second. Well, yeah, it all happened yesterday, day before, or whatever. That's what you got to go with. I mean, and oh, by the way, those numbers aren't any better if you look at it real time. But going back to, I don't know, this was probably a couple months. Josh and Luke and I were talking about when the recession is going to hit. And I kept telling, Josh was saying this year. And he was talking about in a matter of a couple weeks and maybe in a couple months, probably in line with what's really happening, right? But I didn't know that they were going to play it to this extent. The NLEB or whatever the hell it is that actually comes out with the definition that the federal government's using, Joe Biden's using right now, as opposed to what the rest of the world standard is. They actually changed that definition a while ago. And that's why I kept pressing Josh on it, because they changed it. It used to be, and in the majority of the world, it still is GDP, right? If your GDP shrinks for 2 consecutive quarters, then you are in a recession. And GDP, and now there's several different GDP numbers. You have real GDP numbers, you have expenditures, revenue, that type of stuff. So basically, it is the value, or what is the value of all products, goods, and services that were sold, consumed, used, whatever, for a specific quarter. Because obviously, if you're, it's a good number, because if inflation is too high, and they do adjust it for inflation, but if inflation is too high, your dollar doesn't go as far, or people are trying to hold on to their money and this and that, that means the economy shrinks, right? And they're not buying goods, they're not paying for services, the economy shrinks as unemployment changes, this and that. With the new definition of recession, I was going to say it's almost impossible to hit all the criteria, except I think that right now, what their definition now is like, it's just you have to take a broader picture. It's not just GDP, it's GDP, it's inflation, it's unemployment, and several other factors that go in. And actually, I don't even think they lay out specific categories. They're just kind of like, whatever the person in office thinks at the time and wants to declare, that's what they declare. I think, and I'll kick this right over to Luke, by traditional definition, we are in a recession. That's a no-brainer. The unemployment numbers, where they're at now, it's the only thing keeping this house of cards up. That's it. That is looking at all the indicators across the, no, I don't owe you a bottle. So he doesn't even listen to the show. He doesn't even listen to the show. The whole point was I knew they had changed that. So they make it impossible. That's the thing. It's like, if they're the ones in office with, and they have power or control in Congress, they can say that we're never in a recession. I mean, that's how they've set it up, right? That's not, that's the way they've designed it. But my question is this. So one, unemployment, the numbers, it is fairly low still, and it is the only thing keeping this house of cards up. Once the once the unemployment number increases, the house of cards fall, and I think we go into full-blown recession by any definition. So let me ask you this. Is there anything else that you see besides unemployment number that's keeping this thing afloat? And when does that number start to change?
Oh, that's a tough question, man, because, I'm not a biologist or an economist. So, not a doctor. I'm not all these things. So I'm not qualified to have an opinion on anything, obviously. We learned that during COVID. And we learned that during the Supreme Court Justice. What was her name? She's coming in. I should know that. But we learned that during her confirmation hearing, that you got to be a biologist. Answer your question, man. It goes back to this, dude. and you covered it. What you said is that when it's announced, like if everyone was honest and said, we're going to stick to the definition, we're in a recession. The average person, I think, maybe not our audience, but the average person thinks, oh my God, we're in a recession now. It's like, no, bitch, you've been living through it for the past 2 quarters. And it's probably going to continue for at least one more quarter. And you're not going to be out of it for another 2 quarters of positive growth, right? So, people can talk about the manufacturing sector and all this stuff all they want. And unemployment numbers, of course, unemployment should be getting better because we're coming out of the recession. And as a lot of people put it, and maybe we put it like this on the show before, the artificial shutdown of the economy was like a literal train wreck. Like literally. It's going to take time to get all those cars back on the tracks and flowing again. It's just going to take time. You're not going to be able to put them all back together and have that roaring economy we had in 2019 before the pandemic started hitting globally. So what people are feeling on Main Street is what is actually matters. Now they're reading stuff. Okay. Yeah. So they're still talking about who won or lost the bet. I don't know. I think they should buy each other a bottle maybe. And Rogers will probably be better than Josh's. But it's what people on Main Street are feeling and thinking at the time. And I think somebody within the administration, I don't know if it was the press secretary or not, said, the real problem is inflation. It's not really a recession. It might have been even that brilliant mind that we've been blessed with in our lifetime, Janet Yellen. I think it was Yellen actually that said it. The real problem is inflation. It doesn't have anything to do with recession. Well, Main Street's who you should be caring about right now. Truly, you shouldn't be caring about BlackRock. You shouldn't be caring about Wall Street and what the market's doing. You need to be concerned with, the people who live on the east side of Lubbock, how they literally cannot afford to put gas in their car. Groceries are going up. They have to maybe take another job to make ends meet. Maybe that's why unemployment's going down. That's why the employment figures are so high, is because people have to take more jobs just to make ends meet. Because as y'all seen in the audience, man, the prices at the store are out of control. So definition of recession, maybe it does have all to do with inflation, how people are feeling. My point is, recession or not, people are pissed. People are pissed. You can change the definition all you want so that your, upper middle class, white liberal female living in the suburbs feels better about the situation. But that's honestly not what's going to get them elected. So what comes back? I'm not really answering your question. I think that Biden is not making it any easier because as Rush Limbaugh would have said, and as Ben Shapiro says now, you want to fix this problem, federal government, get the hell out of the way. Let Roger brew his coffee or, roast his coffee beans and let us start sending out this stuff, lift the regulations. Maybe we'll contribute a little bit more to the economy. And any kind of check we have coming in, 50% of it's going to go to you anyway. So just get the hell out of the way. That's something that Reagan called trickle-down economics, or at least that was a portion of it, right? So Biden is not making this recovery any easier. I do have faith in America. I do have faith in capitalism in America, more so than Josh. Josh is like, But I think that it will get back on track despite the federal government's best efforts, or not even best efforts, just incompetence to try to get it back on track. Now, this spending bill, 2 spending bills that happened right in a row. One of them I'm on board with somewhat. I'm somewhat on board with it because we've talked about it before. Taiwan, and Josh, stick with me here because this is important. I'm going to kick it to you right after. So I answered Roger's question very poorly, but one of the spending bills was basically subsidizing some chip manufacturing. At least that's what it's supposed to do in the United States, right? And I think that Mitch McConnell was like, okay, we'll vote for this. We'll vote for this and we'll be all good, right? You just don't push another one through. So subsidizing chip manufacturing in the U.S. is something we've talked about on C3 before because Taiwan is Silicon Valley East. And if the Chinese take Taiwan, we are effed. No way about it because we cannot produce chips to meet the demand in the United States. So I'm all about chip manufacturing in the United States. If it takes a little bit of government subsidies to do that, fine. Will they execute it correctly? Probably not, but at least it's a step in the right direction. And then they push through another bill, and Manchin flips, right, Josh? He flips. And he's like, yep, I'm going to vote for this Build Back Better light. So now you've got, I think what Biden is doing is he's splitting up Build Back Better, not Biden. I think what Ron Klain is doing is splitting up Build Back Better into a number of different bills that might have a chance of passing. And Sinema's going to cave, by the way, Roger. She's going to cave on this one. He's splitting it up into smaller bills. He's going to pass them one by one so that hopefully he'll have a big win before the midterms, maybe a couple big wins. And then after the midterms, we'll just keep going with this stuff. Because I think Manchin, I don't know, man, wolf in sheep's clothing. I don't know, Josh. I mean, because he flipped pretty fast on that, right? And I think one of you guys knows why he flipped. So I don't know. I threw a lot at you, Josh. Just take it, man. Just take it. Just run with it, man. Just feel the wind in your spirit and just run with it.
Yeah, bro, I don't run. I'm kind of like Roger.
Yeah, but you got some sweet ass running shoes, bro.
Some Hokas.
The Hokas, man. I'm telling you, dude. You guys need to go to the shoe store. Just try, dude. You ain't got to buy. Just try them on. You just try them on. Be like, I'm just gonna go try them on. Walk around the store and take them off. I promise you, it's gonna be like when your parents took you shoe shopping when you were a kid, and you're like, "Can I wear them out of the store, Mom? Can I wear them out of the store?" That's what you're gonna do, man.
Dude,
that's what's gonna happen.
You're literally becoming older by like a decade every time you talk. You're like going to be you're the reason that the mall opens up at 5:30 in the morning so the walkers can walk around the food court, 9,000 times before everybody else goes shopping at 10.
Hey man,
just embrace it, Josh. Just embrace it and don't run with it. Just walk with it.
What, dude? I'm good with it, man. Dude, there's a reason people think I'm crazy. I'm walking around my neighborhood at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. People think I'm crazy. No,
are you serious?
Yeah. What? Hey. Go get my walk in. Go get my walk in the mornings, man. I mean, you do when you go to bed at 7 p.m. You generally get up kind of earlier. It just kind of happens that way. So the spending bills, I haven't I have not done a lot of due diligence on them. But let me ask you this: in either one of those bills, does it cut $2 for every dollar spent?
No.
Then both of them are garbage, and neither one of them should be approved or signed. There should be no spending bill that goes to the president for signature. There should be no spending bill that passes either chamber, unless it cuts $2 for every dollar in spending. If it doesn't, it's garbage and it shouldn't be signed. As far as Manchin goes, I can't remember if this is an election year for Manchin. I don't think it is. But there's something else. No, here's the deal. You know why he caved on that? Because it pays for a pretty big, I think, a bridge project in West Virginia. There was something I read, something I saw. It was it was a pretty big thing in West Virginia that's going to pump some money in there and bring a lot of jobs. So I mean. And that's fine. That's politics, right? I mean, that's, hey, look, you want me to vote for your shitty bill? I need to get something out of it too. My state needs to get something. And at the end of the day, he's going to create jobs, and there's going to be people in West Virginia that are going to be able to work during this recession that we're in, and and be able to feed their families. So, I get that part. So yeah, he caved on that. At the end of the day, I mean, they're all going to cave at some point on something, right? Because they need some votes back home, so they got to be, they can't be seen, too far to one side of the aisle. And so that part I get. Yeah, man, that's but again, if it doesn't cut $2 for every dollar spent, it's a garbage spending bill, and the American people should oppose it. And get up and be upset about it. But I do agree, they are taking Build Back Better and they're breaking it up into smaller chunks, and they're obfuscating some of that crap in these bills, that are eventually, gonna make their way through. Can they do it before the midterms? I don't know how long they've got. What, 2 more sessions? Or no, they got one more. They've only got one more session before the midterms, right, Roger?
Yeah, I think so. But they're screwing themselves, right? Like, Manchin saved them. Like, Build Back Better not passing saved the Democrats. I mean, because you think inflation is bad now. Had Build Back Better passed, dude, I mean, even their own people are like, dude, we would have been in double digits a long time ago. And so when you get down to where there may be some redemption for them come around the midterms, like they can't get out of their own way. And this is the scary part, is they believe that what they're doing doesn't impact inflation at all. Manchin caved because of the fossil fuel pipelines that they're going to let him open in West Virginia. That's why he caved. I think they're going to go easier on some some permitting, and I think they're going to allow them to open up some more pipelines in West Virginia. So it's going to create jobs, this and that. But this, I believe, is going to come back to bite the Democrats in the butt, because like Luke was alluding to, and what he was saying is that, hey, you're just spending more money. You're not creating anything at all. You're which is one of the causes of inflation, right? There's just too much money out there. And so you're just pumping money in there. It takes more to buy things. It devalues the dollar, that type of stuff. Well, that's what this does. Whether you pass Build Back Better in one big bill or you break it up, it's still the same amount of money, right? And so the thing is, they don't even see it. That's the scary part, is they don't even see it that way. And so I think come the midterms, I think they've actually decreased their chances, because I think these numbers are going to get worse. And I think when there was an opportunity for because eventually, like we talked about, the numbers are generally speaking, for most things, are year over year. So eventually things just kind of level out, because you just stay high, right? But the numbers look good, but you'll just be high. But at this rate here, those numbers may continue to go up. So, I mean, they can't even get out of their own way. As far as, the semiconductor bill, I mean, when it's spending bills, like I think I'm with Luke. We talked about, a significant emotional event to bring semiconductors back here. It should have been COVID. Should have done this a long time ago. I don't have a problem subsidizing that part of it. And I haven't read either bill, because that's part of the problem, is like they were talking about the burn pit stuff, how the Republicans voted against it. Yeah, because they threw like another $400 billion of junk in there. It wasn't just, burn pits. It was like, oh, by the way, the Green New Deal, we're going to start throwing pieces of this in there. What's funny, though, is now you're starting to see even the people that they thought, you can't win for losing here. They put themselves in such a position that everybody becomes your enemy. And I was reading this the other day, that now they're talking about energy companies are now fighting back against the administration due to profits. They're losing profits because Florida just passed a bill that, now this is genius. Florida law now allows landlords to sell cheap solar energy to its tenants. Right now, I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but my assumption is, I own an apartment complex, or like, Luke, he's got several homes, and what he does is, as he goes ahead and he builds he gets some solar panels on top and some batteries and this and that. And then he says, hey, you know what? You can pay, and I'm making these numbers up, but you can pay 35 cents a kilowatt hour or whatever from the city, or I can supply you X amount of kilowatt hours. You know what? I'll do it for 20 cents. And Luke collects that money because he owns the solar panels for his slums. And I shouldn't say slums, because I know they're nicer than that. They're like nice high rises or whatever. But anyway, he owns those solar panels. He owns the equipment. So the city and the energy companies don't get that back. So now they're fighting back against, the whole green energy thing. But that's part of the problem, is there's so much pork. I mean, we've literally gone back another 10 years because there's so much pork in everything out there that, dude, I hate to say it, but it's like inflation is just going to get worse, man. It's funny because, like, with fuel prices, you look at, several months ago, well, the president doesn't control fuel prices. Okay, well, I get it. I get what they're trying to say and this and that, but he does have some input into supply, right? Obviously. And he can control supply on it's a global commodity or whatever. So one instance he doesn't control fuel prices. Then he tries to take credit when fuel prices drop 1 penny for pulling out of the strategic reserve. And now he's been doing like a million barrels a day or whatever. And prices have dropped 30 or 40 cents, apparently where he's at, because it hasn't dropped 30 or 40 cents where I'm at. But so now they want to take credit for it again. Hey, I hate to tell you this, gas is going back up because it's not dropping for the right reason, right? It's not dropping because there's an increase in supply or demand is leveling off. There's a couple of different things. I mean, one, some folks, gas is so expensive now that they can't afford to drive. So they're not taking the vacations. And that's when you start to see the shrinkage of the GDP. This is how all this stuff is tied in together, right? Gas is so expensive. You're like, oh, we're winning, gas prices coming down. Well, no, it's not really because we're meeting the demand. We're not meeting the demand. The demand just shrunk because people can't afford to drive. And when they can't afford to drive, they're not taking vacations. And when they don't take vacations, okay, that's how you end up one of the shrinkages to GDP. And talking about like trickle-down economics, and I'll throw it back over to Luke, you'll have, and I'm so sick and tired of hearing like Nobel Prize winning economists. Dude, I don't give two shits about any of those people because they didn't call inflation for 2 years when us three knuckle draggers sat here and like, dude, like, how do you not see this? How do you not just sit up there and listen to Powell and yell and talk? I'm like, y'all are blind. I mean, it's Stevie Wonder trying to lead, Ray Charles across the street. I mean, it's like everybody has seen this stuff. It's just, it's amazing to me. But like, it's the same thing with trickle-down economics. They say, well, it's already been proven trickle-down economics doesn't work. No, let me show you how trickle-down economics works, okay? On a very micro scale is like, the more money I have in my pocket, especially with my kids, what do my kids do? If I have extra disposable income, I put them in Taekwondo, I put them in piano lessons, my daughter plays soccer. Oh, by the way, we hire an Uber driver or whatever to take them to. So how many people are you employing in that whole thing there? Not only the equipment and all that other stuff that you're buying, you're going to the store and you're buying goods and services, but then you're also paying the salaries of those instructors. And then, the lady that we had driving my son back and forth to Taekwondo, her husband was like in the Navy. They needed a little bit of extra cheddar, this and that. So she was making like $20, right? But that goes to help feed her family and pay her bills. Well, what happens when you tax the crap out of me or I don't necessarily have that disposable income left anymore? The first thing that gets cut is Taekwondo. And guess what? If Taekwondo gets cut, I no longer need a driver, right? And so now you've taken money from that Taekwondo instructor, that facility, you've taken it from that other lady. That's how trickle-down economics actually works. Now you can obviously argue between a macro level and a micro level, but even on a macro level, it works. The more money that you give to a company, believe it or not, everybody's like, oh, big, bad, evil billionaires and this and that. It's like, guess what? Most folks, their healthcare through their company. And one of the things that we look at, where I work at is like, hey, man, the more money that we have left over, the more that we can actually put back into the company and the employees. But I know I get on a little rant there. I'll kick it back over to Luke, but it pisses me off because, all of this stuff is intertwined. But they're just blind, man. I mean, they don't see it. So it just makes me wonder. It goes back to, we've been arguing this for months. It's like, who's running? Like, come on, man. Powell and Janet Yellen, like, really? Like, really? You didn't see this? Right?
Whew, a lot to unpack there. That was a really good micro explanation of trickle-down economics. And where the left or people who are extremely progressive get hung up on that argument is, well, wait a minute. If you're getting paid more, you're getting richer and richer, but the people behind you who are benefiting from you spending money on Taekwondo and swim lessons or whatever, they're not getting as rich as you. That's basically that's one of their problems with trickle down economics. But dude, it freaking makes sense. And anybody wants to come on the show and argue against trickle down economics, I'd love to hear what they have to say. And so I got a couple of points. First of all, why is it got to be Taekwondo for you, Roger? Why can't it be like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or like Japanese karate? Why is it got to be Korean Taekwondo? I mean, I don't know. I'm just saying.
I don't think you can ask me that. I think Robin DeAngelo said that you can't ask me that.
Second thing, you're right. Yeah, that's a good point. So second thing, I gotta do this. So,
but you're as unique as a taco.
Yeah, that's right. So y'all might have. This is so bad. Oh. So earlier, y'all might have heard, maybe Roger will edit out, but I hope he doesn't now. I'm trying to save him some work. Josh had his microphone off mute, and I'm sitting here watching him dig around his desk and just making all these noise and grunting. And I put the chat, I was like, I love it when Josh is digging around and grunting. And Josh came back with, that's what she said. Love it, dude. Beautiful. Great comeback. The burn pit bill that Roger mentioned. Man, I am so sick of Jon Stewart. Dude, Jon Stewart wants to use the bully pulpit that he surrendered, 10 years ago? Dude, hey, John, why don't you do us all a favor and shut your mouth? Dude, I don't want to hear from him anymore. I definitely don't want Jon Stewart representing me as a veteran, and just shut up. You're out of your depth. You gave it up. You decided to be comfortable, and comfort is the killer. And now you're just a sad shell of what you used to be, which in my opinion wasn't much when he got into politics. So I'm tired of him. The burn pit bill, Roger's 100% correct. A lot of veterans get mad about that, and Jon Stewart's trying to whip them up into a frenzy. But there was a lot of stuff attached to that. Then Jon Stewart tried to clap back and say, no, it wasn't. It's like, dude, no, it was. Read the freaking bill. It's like, what are you trying to prove, Jon Stewart? I mean, whatever. He loves veterans. Kiss my ass. So, and Roger also, he's getting me worked up because he's making all these points. It's just like, I'm red line. It's like, I don't know how many more, RPMs I can take here. So, we're supposed to listen to these experts. You mentioned Yellen and Powell. And it's one of the problems. And again, we've said it's just like COVID, which we'll talk about in just a second. It's just like COVID. It's like we have vested, and by we, I mean the American people, and not necessarily us, but the American people as we have vested so much trust into the experts who were educated at Harvard, Oxford, Cambridge, MIT, all this stuff. But one thing that we have gotten away from is the collective mind of capitalism. Okay, we are the collective of capitalism will solve these problems. It's not a group of elite educated people who have never lived on Main Street who are going to solve these problems. All they know is theory. We saw that during COVID. We see it now. Janet Yellen, like Roger said, couldn't predict inflation when she first came in after Biden appointed her. Jerome Powell is whatever. The Fed is a whole different conversation. But you take the collective of communism, we all know what's going on. A lot of people sensed it going on. We sensed it. You remember when I came back from Europe that one time? I was like, is it just me, guys, or are prices higher? I mean, I went to a restaurant and I was like, guys, what's going on? And you guys, yeah, it seems to be creeping up a little bit. And I was like, I know I'm not crazy. But meanwhile, nobody's concerned about inflation. So, yep. And Roger got me worked up, man. And last point, Roger said they're not really slums. The places Luke owns, trust me, folks. Roger's being nice. They're slums. They're slums. Okay. Let's just get that out there right now. So, Josh, from an unvaccinated person, which you are, I'd like to get your thoughts on because Joe, what's that?
You just called him out.
Well, I thought he made that public. Well, you can edit that out, Josh. As a
but he
as
gives
a person,
the job.
As a
Good
person
job.
who doesn't necessarily believe in the efficacy of vaccines, the COVID vaccine, not vaccines in general. You're not an anti-vaxxer. It's just like you question the COVID vaccine, just like you're not going to buy the first model of a car that comes out, right? I believe that Biden is at least triple vaxxed. He's had his 2 series and his booster. I know that for sure. And he might have had his 4th. I'm not sure. As we all know, Joe Biden tested positive for COVID. And again, dude, I do not like Joe Biden, but he is my president. I wish him health. I really do. I don't wish the president ill health. So speedy recovery to Joe Biden. He tested negative, and now he's positive again. So, Josh, what happened? Did he get infected twice? I mean, what happened there? And how come the vaccine didn't protect him, bro? I mean, what's going on?
Well, for starters, it's not a vaccine. It's not
it's a therapeutic.
Exactly. Right. So yeah, I mean, I'm all for vaccines that have some that have actually gone through all the testing, and I'm not talking about rushing them through. I'm talking about vaccines that underwent decades of testing. Probably to take a look at when our kids were were younger, and it's like, hey man, you got to get your measles, mumps, and rubella, and polio and all that stuff. Like, absolutely, yes, I fully support. But when you turn around and you come back with, hey, here's a vaccine that we just basically from cradle to grave, cobbled together in less than a year, and we want to inject this into you. Well, I got some questions, right? I've got some questions, and the government can't fault people for, not trusting them and having some questions, because I don't know. Let's go back in history, right? Let's pick up a history book. Let's read about the Tuskegee experiment. Let's read about all these different experiments, that the government has done, both overtly and, covertly, on American citizens with, with different drugs and effects of different things. And, and then you want me to, just blindly inject this, into my body. Yeah, man. Like Randy Jackson said, on American Idol, be like, that's a no from me, dog. That's just. But it's again, it's not a vaccine; it's a therapeutic. Joe Biden, yes, everybody remembers when he got his, his quote, his first shot on in the mock up of the Oval Office, because he actually doesn't work out the Oval Office; he works out that stupid mock up that they have. And the nurse, it looks like he basically, I think he got injected with some saline on that one. I don't think that was I don't think he actually got it. But it comes down to a couple things. But they don't want to admit this, is okay. So either the vaccines don't work, which we kind of know that now, right? Again, people should be questioning this. If you took your dogs to get a rabies vaccination and they got 3 rabies shots and they still wound up with rabies, you'd probably ask your vet some questions. You probably
Twice.
like, hey man, yeah, but you probably come back and be like, hey man, I have some questions for you. Or when he tested negative after, he tested positive, that was a false. It just, they missed that one. And for whatever reason, that test didn't register. But I find it personally, I find it hard to believe that he tested positive, then tested negative, and then tested positive again in such a short time. I find it very hard to believe that he got it twice. I don't think he ever recovered the first time.
It's the Rona rebound from Paxlovid. That's actually a thing.
Yeah, it has to be that. And so I'll use this. So my father-in-law, tested positive for COVID here, not too long ago. And, he went through it, no issues, other than, he was, low energy and stuff. But other than that, and then he tested negative and it was like, okay, good. And then like, a couple days later, he was like, man, I feel the same, and went back and he tested positive. Again, fully vaccinated. And, it's just, it goes back to, it's not a vaccine. It was a therapeutic. It always was. It was never a vaccine. And, I don't know, that might get us shut down.
If we're lucky.
Yeah. So I was going to kick it to Luke, but Luke got up and walked away.
No, but I think you're spot on though, right? Because I think it changes the dialogue. It changes the whole perspective. So, you went, because remember before when you had Kamala, I will not take the if you come out, and I don't have a problem with the emergency use authorization, because I think there is an older population that is vulnerable at the time. Now we're talking about the first, the original COVID, right? Like, I don't have a problem with this stuff coming out and saying, even with the first one, that, hey, this is a vaccine, because it truly was a vaccine for the first version of COVID. Where we're at now, it does nothing. But it has become, since Delta, a therapeutic. So educate the public and sell them on that. Right. And this is my problem, because, I got into a little flaming war on Facebook with a couple folks back and forth, because here's what pisses me off about the Arizona Department of Health. There have been so many studies out there, right, that have happened since COVID's come about. The efficacy of masks, the vaccine, side effects. There are dozens and dozens and dozens of peer-reviewed studies. Here's what bothers me, as opposed to regurgitating what the CDC puts out, because if you go to the CDC's own page and look at the references, like, you can't find them. Like, I want to read the study, right? You find very few studies on there, and I've dug pretty deep. Not lately, so maybe some stuff has changed, but I was like, I want to read this stuff myself. But why doesn't, like, our state Department of Health, and this is what pisses me off about Arizona, I don't know if it's different where you're at, but hey, guys, gals, why don't you peer review some of these studies here and put out some information on your webpage, on your Facebook, as opposed to just giving me the cdc.gov or org or whatever the hell it is link, right? Hey, my problem with all of this, and it's the same thing with inflation and the economy and everything else, is have the dialogue. Like, I'm not saying I can't be convinced, but the more that you share, you shy away from that conversation, it tells me you don't believe in what you're putting out and you have no confidence in it. I have no issues with them saying, you know what, you're right. Here are 4 studies that listed, you had the one in Israel talking about, the young boys and this and that, and, myocarditis and yada, yada, yada. So you've got a lot of stuff out there. It's like, hey, why don't you address those? Because what'll happen is when you have folks like us that I don't think we're conspiracy theorists, we're starting to sound like it, but we're starting to sound like it because they won't address any of those things. Tell me where I'm wrong. Tell me where the study is wrong. Okay. It's just like with the old voter fraud and this and that. You hate to be a conspiracy theorist on that stuff, but with the 2,000 mules, tell me where that's wrong. Tell me where that's inaccurate. When you look at Pennsylvania in the Supreme Court, the state Supreme Court saying, hey, we're going to extend the voting hours. Okay. Tell me, like, how is that right? How is that not changing the outcome or influencing the elections? When you have 27,000 votes here in Maricopa County that were counted by the recorder, that this thing has just disappeared out here now, right? When you have 27,000 votes that just, boom, we counted them. Oh yeah, they weren't really validated by the third party, validator that every other vote is supposed to go through, and that just happens to come in at the end. Like, nobody addresses any of that stuff. Tell me how is that not a conspiracy? How, even the publication that came out was like, hey, she could actually do some jail time. You know what's happened? That thing has been squashed like a cockroach. Not one blip. And that's how these conspiracy theories come up, is because they won't address them. And it's because they don't believe in them. Because if they believed in them, I'd be the first person, and we've talked about this 1,000 times. Hey, you believe in it, man, you're looking for airtime, right? That is one thing with President Trump. That dude took some airtime. Right, wrong, and different, whether you liked it, didn't like it, whatever. He believed in what he was doing, and he would get out there himself and talk about it. And maybe he didn't like what he had to say and whatever, but he at least addressed it. And that's that's my problem with this whole thing. Luke, we're getting towards the end, so I'll give you a minute. Well, you can take as long as you want. Talk about that, but I want to throw one other thing out there. So Hunter Biden, he's back in the news, right? I have a theory about this, because now they're talking about the big guy, which we all know is Joe, met with at least 14 of Hunter's business partners. Now you've got FBI whistleblowers saying that the FBI squashed all this info. I believe that the deep state, okay, because we talk about this all the time, I believe the deep state of the Democrats are, one, obviously trying to keep Trump from running in 2024, right? January 6th committee, yada, yada, yada. That's what it is. You just build up enough trash that Trump just can't possibly run. And I think there's a mistake there, because I don't think Trump's running anyway. And I think you end up spending all your time and resources on that, which nothing that you're going to do is going to change his mind one way or another. And you might miss DeSantis actually running and winning this whole thing. But I think the Dems are doing that. But I think the Dems are leaking the Hunter Biden info, because, dude, there's been 10 times the reporting in the last week. They are leaking it to keep Joe from running in 2024. What do you think?
Well, I definitely think could be right on that one. I hope you're right. Well, I don't know. I don't hope you're right. I hope you're wrong. I hope that this is just coming out. I hope it's not, orchestrated to, do some weird political machinations that would, I don't like thinking about that. I'd like to think that, the media is doing its job, and, it's doing its due diligence, which we say, yeah, Josh is laughing. I would like to think that, but apparently that's not the case. So it would not surprise me if that's what's going on. Roger is an expert at triggering me tonight, and I think it's because I put out that post the other day about that Black Rifle coffee. So Roger spent like the rest of the week figuring out what he can say that's going to trigger me and make me all emotional, upset. And, with Trump, I believe there was a level of transparency there, whether that was a personality flaw or whatever. It's like when he turned, and I'm not going to be racist like Josh, when he turned Soleimani into red pepper hummus in that vehicle, not salsa. Stop trying to appropriate. It was very clear why he did it, because he came out and said it. When he dropped that Moab in Afghanistan, it was very clear because he came out and said it. When he did this, I mean, he came out and said it. The guy had no brain-mouth barrier. So there was some transparency in there. And, people accused him of being a child and being this and that. Well, now the shoe's on the other foot. People always like to say the adults are back in the house. The adults are back in charge. What is that supposed to mean? Does that mean I'm a child and I got to have the adults hide bitter truths from me? Is that what that means? Because that's kind of what it seems like. When the establishment gets back in control, it's like, well, the adults are back in the room. So you children can go back and the adults will just take care of you. Man, F you. If it takes a childish president to be to be a little bit transparent, I'll take that president, because at least then we're both children and you're not talking down to me. Like there's these elite adults that are going to control my life and whatnot. Man, I'll tell you what. Boy, Roger, he triggered me in so many ways. Got so many notes here, but we're coming up toward the end. One of the things I like, Josh, and I will. This will be my closing out. So I hope Roger comes back to the mic after his little leaky leak. Hopefully, he's not doing the big job. I know he's laughing as he's listening to that, but
big potty.
All this stuff with COVID and everything. I was just like, it brings me back to the monkeypox. I think that was a failed experiment to try to get us all worked up about it. Because I, as this goes on, it's just blowing up in the media's face, or whoever tried to push this monkeypox thing, because there are eerie echoes of the 1980s and 1990s AIDS epidemic. And we can't go back to that. But at the same time, nobody wants to talk about it. But at the same time, they want to say it's a thing. But how do you get it? There's just a lot of questions being asked. And we all know it's not necessarily an STD, but it's spread by close sexual contact. And it's spreading, disproportionately within the homosexual community, homosexual male community. And no one wants to really touch that. But it's like that truth that's right there in front of everyone's face. It's like, we lived through AIDS. We saw this. Can you get it other ways? Yes, absolutely you can. But it's very interesting to watch. It's an interesting case study. But what I found hilarious was Tucker Carlson put out a poll, and it was like either a Twitter poll or something. I didn't vote in. I don't do that stupid stuff, where they're going to call monkeypox a certain name. They gave a list of like 4 different choices. And if folks out there haven't seen this yet, the choice that was selected was schlong COVID. And this is on Fox News. I was like, this is prime time. It was like, man, bro, you are really pushing the envelope on that, man. So yeah, Roger wins the Trigger Luke award for the day. Appreciate everyone listening. Darren and a couple others asked us to cover a couple of topics, and we covered 2 of them. But another thing Darren wanted us to cover, Josh, was and you won't be able to do it, so don't even try. He wanted us to cover, why is it necessary for you, Josh, to own an AR-15 with a 100-round drum? So don't even try. He was throwing that out there to get your goat. But anyway, so thanks, Darren, for listening. Thanks, everybody, for listening. We appreciate y'all hanging with me and Josh through the last episode of us giving our crappy social media and culture and music takes.
Yeah, so we'll shelve that one for the next episode, or whenever Luke really wants to reveal to the audience how anti-2A he is. So real quick shout outs. Hey Kevin down in Tampa. Hey, we really appreciate you listening. We're glad to hear that your family in Eastern Kentucky is doing okay, and we're going to try and get the good word out, about what's going on, so folks can help out. Bruce in North Carolina, really appreciate you listening, man. And again, Brandon out in Kansas, thanks for listening, brother. Shout out to Camille in Georgia. Thanks for watching and bearing with us. And then shout out to my dad, who is spending the weekend getting caught up on our YouTube channel. He doesn't like to listen to the podcast. He's like, I like to see you guys, and he wants to meet you guys in person one day. he loves you guys. I think he likes you guys better than he likes me.
I don't blame him. I don't blame him a bit.
So I think I may have finally talked my mom into listening to at least one of our episodes. I told her don't listen to the earlier ones. I would say I tried to give her one, that there's no bad language, but we can't get through 5 minutes of an episode without Roger dropping multiple F-bombs these days. So sorry, Mom. At least it's not me. Just don't listen to the earlier episodes. So that'll do it. That'll do it for me. I'll throw it over to Roger, and he can close us out.
God, y'all are so bad at your jobs, because Roger, his last message was, "You or Josh can close it out." I guess that makes him good at his job, and I was just like, I didn't even see it. I kicked it. Josh would do it.
Roger didn't think that. He thought that big potty was going to take longer than it did.
Whatever, man. Whatever. And Josh's mom, all I got to say is that he actually sends me text saying, "Hey, can you edit out my F-bomb so I don't disappoint my mom and dad?" So I leave mine in there because I am pure. This is what you get. I leave Luke's in there with Josh. I edit his out. I was going to leave that out of the story, but that's the deal. I actually felt a little inadequate, man, because you guys were like, man, you guys bring it. You're giving shout outs to like all these listeners and everything. Like, dude, I can't even shout out like my own family for listening to C3 because they don't. So I feel kind of bad. Maybe I got to up my game a little bit. But yeah, definitely don't want to forget Carlton Zeus. Hey, Carlton, I am not like Josh. I will actually not screw you. I will add your intro music back to our podcast because I do appreciate you as an artist, and I appreciate your music and the fact that you let us use this thing for free. Which, I actually don't know that he lets us use this for free. Luke just told us this. So I'm assuming that he lets us use this thing for free. A part of me thinks Luke just was like, "Oh yeah, man, we're good. Just go ahead and use it." So
if we ever make money, we're screwed.
Well, what we need him to do is to actually sue us, because if he would sue us,
he could be the Toby Keith to our Carlton Zeus.
Yes, there you go.
There's no such thing as bad press.
Yep, that's right. So maybe maybe we'll push that forward. But anyway, again, just thanks to everybody out there listening. Thanks to everybody out there watching. I think we're going to have some like a little mini series coming up with Josh. Kind of let us, because they had the COVID thing, right? And so they were doing like what was the guy on CNN who got fired, but Cuomo or whatever. He was doing the little minute snippet every day or whatever. Maybe with Josh and his monkeypox vaccine, he can kind of give us a little minute snippet every day to see how he's doing. But thanks to everybody out there watching. Thanks to everybody out there listening. Thanks again to Carlton Zeus. Keep your canteen cups tightly secured and full of some good whiskey.